Hello everybody and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here and I'm joined by Don as usual. And we have returning guest AgileTablet back once again. And today we'll be talking about our plans for the next year. It's been a very strange year, 2020 has, and we're thinking about what's going to happen in 2021. Is it going to get better and go back to normal? Is it going to get crazier? A lot of things going on to discuss. So we'll be talking about that and then getting into some questions. So, welcome back to the show, AgileTablet. It's been a long time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Donald.
So, who wants to go first? What's the plan for 2021? What's the, probably got it mapped out in detail and
of course
charts and
that's my style. I do a lot of planning ahead. My predictive powers are very strong. I just got a new job that I've been at for a month and a half now, so that's really going to be, however that plays out, is going to be governing how my 2021 goes. So I got the job obviously during this pandemic, and they are before the autumn upswing started happening with all the cases in North America, the plan was to get back in the office for at least a couple days a week by February, or starting in February rather. And now no one knows if that's going to happen or not, because they're not going to do it if it's not safe, which is an interesting I don't know. I feel like that definition changes on depending on who you are and what your motives are. Like there isn't like an agreed upon that's safe or that's not. I don't know how that's going to play out, but that's certainly going to be interesting. I really don't want to. I'm not a big fan of working from home, but I certainly don't want to go back to an office if it's not going to be safe.
Yeah.
If everyone's just breathing the same recycled air, so.
Sure.
Yeah, not sure how that's going to go.
But you're finding working from home all right for now? Is it like, do you think it'll be okay?
I mean, the thing that I don't like is probably the thing that employers do like, which is that productivity seems to be up. But I think the reason for that is that everyone is like constantly working. Like you're always working from the moment you get up to, if someone feels like contacting you, if they're still working at 10 p.m. and they just feel like messaging you, chances are you're probably still on your computer, even if you're not working. So then, there's a lot more of that kind of thing going on where people are just like always connected instead of having a discrete, like, okay, this is my work time and then I go home. And of course, that's a permeable boundary already for many people, being at the beck and call of their employer and coworkers. But I think it's exacerbated by the work from home thing. But I will say,
it's very Delusian.
Thank you, Tom. But the lack of a commute is pretty nice. Like you just get up and get ready and there you are. You don't have to get to work, so that's pretty nice. And the same thing at the end of the day, like I don't have to worry about giving myself like an hour and a half buffer between ending work and when I'm able to start cooking dinner. You know what I mean? Like I can just like be like, okay, I'm done now, and then walk into the kitchen. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Plus the paycheck is nice too, I'm sure.
Oh, that little thing. That's definitely a load off. I mean, I prefer the neat lifestyle. That's just, that's my very unique taste to not be working. I prefer that. But I like removing that stressor of like, am I going to be able to have an income again and start saving again? And really one of the biggest things was to get Tom on my insurance. I really wanted to do that. So that's a big that's a big thing that I was very excited about having the opportunity to do now that I have a new job. So Yay for
That's
that.
cool. So so you've got like some benefits and stuff.
Yeah, the benefits are nice.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of, I don't know if you guys have talked about this before, but in terms of the nature of the healthcare industry in the U.S., the larger your employer is, the better the chances that your insurance will be okay, because smaller employer, like insurance companies don't want to deal with small employers because of the the size of the risk pool or whatever. So yeah, this is a huge company, big nondescript monolith. So in that sense, it's nice. I'm happy about that. The benefits.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a job with I guess like the TA stuff at school, whatever. I got like health insurance and stuff like that, whatever. But like, you still have it in Canada because it's like for stuff like drug plans and like, I don't know, a lot of things aren't covered.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but I was but otherwise I don't know. I've never had any of the cool ones. Dental is never
covered, right?
Yeah. I mean, like in supplemental, it is like if you buy health insurance, whatever. Yeah, but like not like through the government. The government does for in certain ways, like if you're like on social assistance and stuff. So, but not like like the average worker has to buy that kind of stuff. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you get anything like any special things like retirement and all that kind of stuff? Like, do you have to pay into that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but they have a really robust contribution, so
cool.
That's really nice that they can contribute to that. And there's a few other benefits like that too, and I haven't looked into it yet, but they do a lot of stuff with like volunteering, and they're like already hooked into a lot of resources so that you can just kind of choose, like if you feel like doing some volunteering, you don't have to do a lot of the legwork on your own. You can just like be like, oh hey, what are the 2 dozen things that you guys have available, and just like use that. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, that's neat. I find all that kind of stuff, anything like official, like bureaucratic, whatever, I find cool. I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can pronounce this better, but like kawaii, whatever. Kawaii.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's what, I don't know. It's like I don't know. I collect a lot of that stuff, like, like passport kind of stuff, all that, all the little things like that. I don't know. I was thinking the other day, I was looking at eBay. I came up with a cool new hobby where I look at like, I sort foreign paper money for like different things by like maximum price, so that I look at like, I don't know, like old German marks and stuff, and that I'm like, man, if I were rich, that's what I'd put on my walls and places. I don't know. Like,
my dad likes that kind of stuff too, because we moved around so much.
I remember.
Yeah, he we moved around so much when I was growing up that he sort of like collected currency from all sorts of different places. And before before my parents had me and my brother, he moved around even more. Like before he got married, he was stationed in so many different places that he just has like a huge collection of currency. Some of it is like from countries that don't exist anymore, or governments that don't exist anymore. Like he has some Saddam money, which is kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow,
cool.
I remember him having several different sets of Russian money too.
Yeah, he has some stuff that's like Imperial Russian currency.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'd also get into collecting like ration coupons or something like that for like Maoist China and German Democratic Republic and stuff.
I'm just imagining you sitting on a street corner with like your belly sticking out over like a tank top or whatever, and you're just like thumbing through these things. It's like a crowd of people around you, like waving their cash in the air, trying to get the coupon.
Yeah. That's good. So, so I guess you'll be able to, start planning more, I don't know, down the line, whatever. So, like, we had said maybe talk about marriage and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Plans around that.
I couldn't do that for a long time because the state insurance that I was on, if you are married, they consider your spouse's income as part of yours, even if it's not like we don't share finances, but they consider it that way. So I would have gotten kicked off of that if we were married. So we had to not get actually married for a long time.
Yeah.
And now that I have this job, we can actually get married. But of course, now that there's a pandemic and we can't really do anything in terms of like a safe gathering.
Sure.
I don't, it's kind of just like, well, I don't know. It just feels like we basically have been married, except for state recognition of it for a long time now. So it's just kind of like a funny like formality for him to be able to get on my insurance. That's about it. You know.
So it's kind of weird.
A little.
So you guys don't think that you'll get like a joint bank account or stuff like that? Like I just thought that was like the first step or whatever. I didn't know that you're gonna keep you prefer to have your finances a bit separate, or
I guess so. We haven't really talked about that very much, but I don't think we had any plans to change that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if we were doing something like trying to buy a house, then it would be different because we would like functionally we would want to. But as it stands, we just kind of split all like household stuff anyway. So there really doesn't seem to be much of a drive to consolidate anything.
Yeah.
Other than like a symbolic gesture, I suppose that has its appeal, I guess. But
or for like long-term planning, I don't know. I guess you just have to
eventually maybe, but I don't know if we're in a spot where we can do that kind of thing yet.
Sure.
But yeah, like we do. There's some debts to finish paying off, and I think after that point we're probably going to start looking a little bit more jointly at things, and then maybe we'll go from there.
Yeah, come on, Biden. Cancel that debt.
Yeah.
Tom is very excited about that possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he does it, that'd be great. But I'm not holding my breath, but you never know.
Yeah.
He's an old man. He gets confused very easily.
Yeah. I mean, the government did it for me here, right? It canceled. I had, because they have like a program for people that like have had certain types of health problems or whatever kind of thing. And I had $21,000 in debt through them. And
wow.
They canceled it all. They got rid of it. So
wow. That had to feel good.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why now I don't have any debt. That's one of the components of that is that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that I don't know. I feel like people should be able to access things like that if they, I don't know. It'd be good if more people could, benefit from that, because it is very like being helpful for me in terms of like, feeling like I'm not submerged in.
Yeah.
I can plan
I mean,
and stuff,
it's crazy seeing some of the like. We're very fortunate. We don't have like a ton of that to deal with, but some. You just hear stories about people who are continuing to pay off their student debt until, like they'll be 50 and still trying to pay it off. And now they owe more than they did when they graduated because of interest or something like that. It's just being able to break free of that must be, I don't know, like one of the best feelings. I don't know. That's been happening with some close friends, and I just really like there's nothing I can do to help. I just it really is a sad situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I just reminded me of Sid,
sure,
former guest of the show. That's another thing that I would like to do in 2021 if travel becomes something that can be done safely. I would love to be able to visit LA and visit Sid because I miss her a lot and have also never been to California. So that's my next trip to save up for if trips are possible.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be. I've never been to California either.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, northern or southern. So, my hope is to be able to visit and then do a bunch of stuff outdoors because that's so limited in availability in this area, depending on the season. So
Sure.
that's what I would love to be able to do.
Yeah. I feel like the border is going to be closed for a while.
Yeah.
Still. So I'd probably be in Canada, but like I was thinking it was like eight months ago. I think I was supposed to come see you about
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
And it's
been
been
a
on
while.
hold.
Donald.
yeah. So
That's true. It was like right at the outset. I think it was like March, wasn't it?
I was
April?
planning on coming April something, mid-April or something. But
Okay.
yeah, and I don't know. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'd really like to go. Just different places in the States and stuff. As I said before, I don't really feel like even if I had the like money on paper, I feel like I prefer to be working more and like having a more stable income before I go anywhere further. It just doesn't feel, I don't know. It seems like that's the best route to take on that kind of stuff. But like, I would like to, do more in person episodes or interviews and stuff like that kind of thing. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
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 Be cool to do some of that.
And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm hoping that within the next 6 months to a year, I can go to Montreal. I don't know. That would be my hope. Depending on how, I think that like by this time next year, we're supposed to have like a majority of Canadians vaccinated. And I don't know what that means even. I'm not sure until after it happens really. A lot of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the actual result of all that is going to be. I don't know.
Yeah. Professor Pizzagate, I was talking to him yesterday about some logistical issues with the vaccines, and he raised a really good point, which is that because there is no precedent for rolling out a vaccine to the entire world at once.
Yeah.
And because this is a coronavirus, we know that it's not the same kind of vaccine as, for example, polio vaccine would have been. We know that it's only going to confer, if it even works like they say it does, which is already a huge if, it's only going to confer a limited time of immunity. So how do you actually get everyone functionally immunized? That's a huge issue because it's going to be rolling, maybe every 2 to 4 months, maybe every 4 to 6 months. But it's not going to be like even a full year. So maybe between 2 and 4 times a year, people queue up and, try to get vaccinated again. But then it's going to be like, are we doing this for the rest of our lives? Because
I don't know. Yeah.
like there's all these different problems of like, what if you miss one of these vaccinations? Then you could go around and still be infecting people. It's just a mess.
I have no idea. So we kind of do like a belated Halloween thing because a lot of people didn't really get to do proper Halloween, and we just stick syringes with the vaccine in it in little things of candy, because that gets so many people every year. Like they always have warnings about that, so I figure let's use that to our advantage this time.
Yeah.
People can't resist candy.
Sure.
That's very true.
Yeah, I don't know. I said this the other day, I think, but like I have no way of navigating what the truth is on this kind of stuff because everyone I know is a contrarian kind of thing. So like, there's no way I would know what the truth is. Like, there's no possible. I have like, I can either just kind of trust what the news says, or someone's gonna be like, "Hey, did you know that like they can't actually get the cooling that cool, so therefore they're all gonna go bad, but they're just gonna inject us anyways?" Or some of that. Someone's gonna say that, and I'm like, okay, well, I have no way to gauge if that's true or not. So I'm just gonna, if they tell me to, if the eggheads tell me to take the shot, I'll do it, kind of thing. So I don't know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really understand how we're gonna have to get Mike on and to maybe help us through some of this because I don't really know how it works in terms of like, can the virus just like if you are vaccinated, does that mean that like you can't get it and give it to someone else that might not be vaccinated or something? I don't know. Because I was thinking that like you wouldn't have like symptoms, right? You wouldn't be like coughing or whatever on people. So I don't know.
I don't imagine that you would. I wonder if there's going to be problems, like if you get one with Pfizer and then you take another vaccine from like a different thing. Is that going to cause problems? And like how are they going to really track all of that?
Yeah, exactly. Because since they're not the same vaccine, they're made in different ways. What do we have any data at all on how they interact? No.
Yeah. Well, okay. So my Halloween idea is not looking so good now.
yeah. But,
oh, it was so promising.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's. There's a lot of just logistical problems that aren't, they have nothing to do with, is this a sterility vaccine? Is this none of, you don't even have to get into that stuff before you run into like major problems with how this is getting rolled out.
Yeah.
So,
well,
we shall see.
I just worry about like mutations too or something. Like I feel that like, if it's still like, if we're somehow vaccinated, but it's still like circulating around, wouldn't it just keep mutating like the flu or something? So that like you just keep getting it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big problem, because there has never been a coronavirus vaccine before.
Yeah.
Like they've been trying to make corona vaccines for a really long time, because then they could make a bunch of money like they do off of the flu vaccines.
Yeah.
And they just have never been able to make one before.
And all of a sudden
they
did it.
And then the same thing. Exactly. And all of a sudden they did it. Really? And then this I didn't know, but Professor Pizzagate told me that I had heard stuff about this in the news, but he was able to contextualize it for me. They've never made an mRNA vaccine successfully before either.
Mm-hmm.
So this is supposed to be a coronavirus vaccine and an mRNA vaccine. That's, for the people who may not know, that's just like the kind of vaccine it is, the way that it works. So yeah, then like Tom said, all of a sudden they've done that now. No, maybe that's true, because there really hasn't been a situation of this dire need before, whereas something like the common cold, it wasn't killing as many people as this can. So maybe there is an argument to be made that, actually, all of a sudden it did happen. We did do it this time.
Yeah.
But
I bet they had a problem up on a chalkboard in the middle of the Pfizer HQ or whatever, and the janitor saw it and he solved it all.
Yeah.
Like, by gum, we've got it.
I don't know. This is all above my pay grade. I can't, I'm not like...
I'm going to get all the vaccines. I'm just going to take all of them at once.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. I would be very worried about you.
Yeah. I like that you can tell Don's been playing Fallout because he's worried about super mutants and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
So your next trip that you would like to do when it's safe to is Montreal?
Well, I mean, I feel like the border will be closed, so
right.
I can
so you got to kind of make it in Canada somewhere. Yeah.
I think so. I might have to go on like a trip to Toronto, which is not that far from me, which is, at first, because it's just like, I might not be able to go between provinces yet or something, but like,
have they locked that down at all?
So, it's kind of like a very, very gray area, because I don't think legally they're allowed to, because you have like a right of movement between the different areas in Canada, but like they've been saying like no is non-essential kind of travel anywhere kind of thing, so it's like you're not really supposed to. But but it's kind of it's a bit strange, because also within provinces there, the Canada has a lot of like, obviously like tourism is like part of it, like people going out to cottages and all that kind of stuff, whatever. So that has completely collapsed, I guess, in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so the government is like in different places. Like I know in Quebec, they were giving, I think it was like 20% rebates through the government for anyone that took any sort of trip within the province. So
okay.
I don't know, stuff like that. Like, so it's I don't know. So once I think there's going to be like a pent up demand though. I think that like once people are allowed to travel, there's probably going to be a boom of that kind of stuff. I don't know. We'll see. So
yeah, V-shaped recovery, I think they call it.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going to happen though. Like, we'll see. I don't know. I just miss. I like going to Montreal once a year or more. So I miss. Like, I want to. I mean, I miss anywhere. I was in Toronto today, just briefly, just dropping off some stuff, and it just it was probably like 3 or 4 months the last time I was in a city or anything, kind of thing. So it was kind of pretty felt different. I don't know, just it's not like it's the same thing, but like it's I don't know, you just see a lot of people around and stuff, and you're like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I mentioned this elsewhere briefly, but I went and got a couple procedures done at the hospital recently, and I didn't even realize I would feel this way because it's not like I live on my own, and I do get to see my family every once in a while, but being very close to the technician who was doing the procedures, I was like, it was kind of thrilling. I was just like, wow, I can't believe I didn't expect it.
This is the first I've heard of this.
It was a woman, Tom. It's okay. But it was just a strange feeling of like, I haven't been like that close to a stranger in many, many months, and I didn't expect that I would care anything either way about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a exciting thing for some reason. I don't know. It was very strange.
Yeah. I had almost like sort of not the same, but sort of opposite maybe in experience the other day. I went to like this grocery store, and they had limited the capacity of the whole store to 50 people because it's like a big grocery store. So I had my little cart, whatever, and I just took my time shopping.
Hey, Donald, I'm sorry, Donald. Yep. I have to go investigate something in the kitchen. I'm sorry if we have to edit this out. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Yep, go.
Would you mind starting that? Okay. All right. I'm really sorry. I'll be right back.
Hey, did you hear like some beeping coming from my audio?
No.
Because that's what caused her to go check the kitchen, but I think that was just some trucks or something in the alley.
Okay.
Because there's that warehouse there. So she thought like the Instant Pot was saying like, you have 3 seconds to evacuate the premises.
Yeah.
But everything's fine.
I did. I got so scared because it was already off. Like I had turned it off before we started. And then I heard something beep in the exact sequence that it's supposed to beep when you're like when it's burning. Yeah, like if stuff inside of it is burning, it gives off an alarm. And I was like, but I thought I turned it off. So I thought it was going to explode. Okay. I apologize.
Yeah, it did really sound like the Instant Pot because I just thought it was trucks or whatever because it sounded to me. My room is like right by that alley, so I could, hear that pretty well, and it seemed like it was coming from there. But then when she was like, "Oh, I got to check the kitchen," I was like, "Oh, I guess that was the Instant Pot. It wasn't trucks."
Yeah.
Anyway, please begin your tale again.
Sure. So, no, the other day I was, they had reduced capacity at like this large grocery store to only 50 people, but it was kind of like, it's kind of like an absurdly low number. I mean, it's not, obviously there's a big problem, but like, so I had my little cart and I was bopping around and it felt like I was on like almost like a half empty grocery store, just like being able to, so anyways, it was really quite nice. I took my time and just looked around at everything and I was quite happy about that. And it was like, when in a post-apocalyptic movie or whatever, where they're like, they like go into the thing and they start like raiding, they're scavenging and they find stuff. And I was just like, popping stuff into my cart like, leisurely and stuff. I don't know. It felt nice. Normally I get very anxious in those kind of situations, just like, out and about, whatever. And so it's nice to feel like, oh, yeah, well, we can do this more often, kind of thing, you know. So yeah,
yeah, they seem to have given up on the reduced count of people inside establishments pretty quickly here. Like I remember that happening sort of near the beginning of the summer, so it was still a few months into the lockdown, but that disappeared very quickly. I think it's just a huge pain and like a personnel issue for them to consistently do that, because they have to like hire people to stand by the door and be the gatekeeper and wipe off everything and stuff like that. So all of the measures aside from, hey, just wear a mask and don't get close to other people, have just sort of dissipated, you know?
Yeah, Aldi used to have someone at the door, and I guess they don't anymore. Although I think some places are still doing that. I think your dad was talking about a few places he went to where they still do stuff like that.
Oh.
So.
Well, we went to Costco with him, and they weren't doing that, so.
Yeah,
really?
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like we are putting together a list of things that we're going to take care of in 2021, though. Like I'm going to be on health insurance, so I can get all these like medical things sorted out. I can go to the dentist. I can go get a physical and all kinds of stuff like that. The marriage thing, we will figure out exactly what we're going to do. Hopefully, at some point during the year, we can actually do a proper celebration. But for now, it's just get the contract signed and like make it a legal reality.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would like to like do something actually celebratory with that, but I'm very uncreative, so I don't know. Well, I have to say you're not that creative about those kinds of things either. So we're putting our noggins together, and it's just kind of like a little empty coconut sound when it comes to things like this. Well, so we'll try, but I don't know.
It's just weird because you don't want to do something. Like, you want to do something that is realistic given the circumstances, but you also don't want to make it too... Like, it needs to rise to the occasion a little bit as well, so it's like this weird balancing act.
Yeah. Well, you had suggested steampunk wedding, I thought. You're good.
Very good, Donald.
Yeah. I moved on to cyberpunk wedding now.
Sure.
That's going to be...
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the other day, though, that I reached a point where I'm like, I used to sort of fret a lot about the future, like what I was going to do and all different things like that. And I guess like one good thing is that I'm at a point now where I just sort of like wake up and I just, putter away at the kind of things that I find interesting kind of thing. I don't feel like when I wake up, like just, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do kind of thing? Like, what's the plan? I'm just more kind of like, oh yeah, I'll just learn a bit more about this, do the pod, maybe reply to some emails about writing stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just not. It doesn't feel like. It feels like, okay, this is it. This is pretty much it. Just keep going.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it is good. So
yeah,
and so that's a good sort of thing too. I don't know. And I was reading. I started reading this book about like panic disorder kind of stuff, where it's like it's called "Don't Panic," and it's actually really being helpful kind of thing, like just to remind me of a bunch of things.
Is it just "Don't panic" on each page? You just
it's pretty much that. Like, I mean, part of it is
it's by Douglas Adams.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of these books are kind of like it's just strangely filled with like a lot of them are filled with like. It's almost like half new age stuff. Like it's people that are like super scientific or whatever, but like all self-help books have to have something in it that's kind of like, or like, medical books have to have stuff where it's like the universe is divided into two or something, like all this stuff about like, the energies rise and fall or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, and then it's just, I don't know. It's just like a thing. So you have to kind of wade through that and be like, okay, well, I guess like that's, but he was kind of going on about like how you kind of have to learn to just trust your body to sort of handle it kind of thing. so that like if you get into like a position where you start to panic, you kind of have to let go and just let your body do its thing, which is counterintuitive, but like it makes sense.
Yeah.
And anyway, a lot of it was explaining like certain types of like, anyway, it made me realize that a lot of the stuff that I had been going through was very, very connected, all like in one type of disorder kind of thing, instead of being like just stuff, but like certain things about like not being able to get things done, even just like in terms of like, basic kind of stuff like trying to cook or do laundry and stuff. Apparently, like agoraphobia and stuff around that works very much the same way. Like it's the same thing. It's like I always had this idea that it was something where you're like out in public and you get afraid of that or whatever kind of thing, right? Like you don't want to be. And apparently the way that like, I mean, the word doesn't matter as much, but it's more like the way that it works is that it's like having agoraphobia in private, basically, almost kind of thing. Like it's the same. So anyways, it was very interesting to me, that kind of stuff. It's like helpful for thinking through like, how you get stuff done day to day and stuff. So I don't know. I find that
That's
interesting.
great.
It's funny because there's not like a lot of resources out there really for like after I finished school, I came back here in like 2018, whatever. I went to all the different clinics and stuff, and they're basically like, okay, well, we don't really have ongoing counseling just available. Like you have to pay, like, whatever, $100, $200 an hour or whatever instead, whatever. Right. And I'm not going to do that. So I was like, well, okay, well, I kind of just coasted for a while. And then I was like, oh, I need to like actually work on this stuff more. Tom and I did an episode about like personal responsibility, and I was like, well, yeah, I should probably, if I'm not going to go to a clinic or something, I should probably be working on this kind of stuff myself, at least, kind of thing. So I don't know, and I think that's cool. I don't know, it feels good to be like, oh yeah, I'll probably just work at this and it'll improve over time and stuff. So that's good. So
yeah, that's cool. Well done.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been reading a lot. I got this Kindle thing, whatever, and I've been using it a lot. Yeah, so it's been very good for me. I don't know.
You kind of gotten used to it. There's a little bit of an adjustment period, right?
Yeah, and I finally kind of adopted to it. I've got like a bunch of books just like piled around, and I'm gonna work through those and then just get rid of them. Like I already put together a few boxes of books I'm just gonna give to like a local charity or something. And just get rid of almost all of them. And my kind of goal would be to get rid of almost all of them, except for maybe like a small box of like just, my favorite books, whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
And get rid of the rest of them completely before I plan to move in the future. So kind of thing. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So
take them to a used bookstore or something like that.
Well, the problem is that like, some of them are like highlighted and stuff, and like just
sure,
it's really not like a good market for selling used books. Like they probably only give you like $1 each or something for some of them.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of like I might as well just give them to like there's like local libraries and stuff that will take them now. So
sure,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyways, but so that's one of my quests for the year, I guess, kind of over the next year, is to try to get rid through a lot of those books and stuff. So, I mean, there's not really much point in me moving anywhere right now, because
sure,
it'll be just the same thing, just locked down or whatever, mostly. So,
yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah. So,
I with this new job, they had me get this, or they sent me a book, and it's like a business communication book. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. And then I open it up, and just like you were talking about with the self-help books, they just make like these weird, like ontological claims about like the way people think is in pyramids. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
That's just true now, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, as soon as I opened it up and saw that, I was like, oh God, do I really have to read this thing? But like you said, you try to take the good and leave the not so good or the not useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know when I'm ever going to do my my like the how you were talking about, just like kind of chewing through a lot of books and then donating them as you do.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm ever gonna do that, because now I have like no free time, and when I did have free time, I didn't do that hardly at all either.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that's gonna happen. But that's cool that I think that's like a very noble goal, and it also has like a pretty, like, it's not like pie in the sky. Like, you can make very obvious progress on it as the days go by. So that's like a good goal.
Yeah. Plus, it's like podcast food. You can kind of like digest the books and then turn them into episodes.
True.
Yeah.
True.
The best book I ever read for that kind of like new age kind of thing, insert where you wouldn't expect it, was the book Truth in Comedy by Del Close and a few other people, where it's just like improv comedy kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden inserted in it is like, you know what, it'll be like talking about how like yes and like the idea that like comedy should be additive and all this kind of stuff, like you should be trying to riff off of each other and all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden it'll start being like this is just like the way that the energy in the universe works kind of thing or something, being like we're all connected in the collective unconscious and the collective unconscious, and you're like wait a minute, I thought this was like it's like, I don't know, but they're all Chicago people too, actually, but yeah, so I don't know, maybe I don't know, there's some connection there, I don't know, so yeah, I don't know.
Tom, do you have any books that you've been trying to get to?
Nothing comes to mind, to be honest. I've kind of just been on a break from reading stuff for a while. I haven't really gotten through anything this whole quarantine, to be honest.
Eesh. That's unusual for you. What about that? What was it was something involving Ibn Arabi, and it was like the Book of the Red Sulphur or something like that.
Oh, I don't have a copy of that. We were watching a video.
I know, but you
What?
I thought you were interested in reading it.
Yeah, I mean, if I come across it or something, but whenever I looked it up on Amazon, it's only being used. It's only being sold used for like $90. So I'm not that interested.
Yeah.
Just like if I come across it for
for
a reasonable price, sure, maybe.
Yeah.
It's just a biography of Ibn Arabi.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Well, you've been reading graphics card reviews or whatever.
Yeah, I've been very I don't know what the word is. I'm on the front lines of the GPU wars, following all this stuff. It's kind of fun. It kind of becomes like almost as the same thing as like a sports fan kind of a thing. Like there's these two teams, and I don't really have a stake in either team, AMD or NVIDIA, but it's sort of interesting how they're you can just see how they're competing with one another in different ways. It's kind of interesting just to watch. Yeah. So I recently got my new video card, my new monitor a few weeks ago, or a month or two ago, something like that. And then we got new desk chairs coming in Monday. So when this episode comes out, we'll be sitting in our new chairs, hopefully. So got the whole upgrading the whole desk computer situation.
Yeah, I will no longer be sitting on an ancient living room chair trying to work on that.
Yeah.
It's too comfortable. There's no seat support, there's no lumbar support. So it has been murder for trying to get work done in it, because I'm just most of my energy goes into shifting uncomfortably. But I'm very excited about those new chairs coming. That's the thrilling stuff in our lives.
I've been lending her I have a real desk chair, but it's like a super cheap. It was like literally the cheapest one that I found at a Walmart or something like that. So it's like kind of too small for me. I think it actually might be intended for like children, basically. Like it's not like made out of Legos or anything, but it's, you know, it's not great, and it squeaks a lot. So if you ever heard like squeaking, and I don't know if you can hear that, but you will no longer you heard that? Well, no longer. That's going to be done. So we're upgrading the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah.
Very good.
Maybe I can write this off on taxes that way.
I got one of those little footstool things, whatever, for like the
ottoman.
No, but it's like it's just like cheap plastic kind of thing. It's just like it's like a little like I don't know. It's got like a little swing kind of thing. I don't know. It looks just like I don't know. It's just like it's got little dots all over it and stuff. I don't know. It's like a it's like supposed to be ergonomic, I guess, kind of thing. It's like because I'm a short man, and I'm like sitting down on this chair that's like it's like a very, very sturdy office chair kind of thing that's like got metal bars and all this kind of stuff. And whenever I was sitting on it cross-legged, it would just like dig into my leg kind of thing. And then I would like sit like that for like 2 hours while we're podcasting, and then like I you know, and my legs would fall asleep. So now I've got like the you know, got the beautiful little footstool thing that it like fits perfectly and is just like, I don't know. It's but it's also very like my back is like fighting against it a bit because it's like not used to being in a correct position. So it's like I don't know. I'm like fixing myself just by podcasting. So
realigning.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. Is it question time? Should we move on to questions now?
Sure.
Okay, let's start with this one. Have either of you guys ever looked into Costa Rica's no military social democracy approach to government? How feasible do you think that is for other countries and in the long term? So I'm familiar with this. I haven't looked into it very much, but I know that Costa Rica is like their big thing economically is tourism. And so I think that a lot of like the no military stuff is sort of working along with that, where they are trying to attract, you know, Americans primarily, I imagine, but also people from neighboring countries and stuff like that who have a little bit of money to spend. And so I think you need to be able to present like yourself as like a complete non-threat, and to really not have anything that anyone's going to want to attack you for, that kind of a thing, and to sort of defer the whole security responsibilities to someone bigger and meaner. So I think for Costa Rica, I'm not sure exactly if that means the United States or what, but I imagine that's kind of the case here, where they don't feel like they need a military, that it's probably a drain on their budget, and they're perfectly happy to just sign on with whatever the U.S. wants as far as military stuff goes or security stuff goes, you know. So if like the U.S. wants to station themselves there or something, I imagine that that's part of it. I really don't know at all, so I'm just speculating here. But yeah, I think that's kind of what, if that makes sense for a country, then yeah, that's fine, right? Like that's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But like if you're something like Iran or something, you probably can't go like, yeah, we are a peaceful country now. We don't need a military.
Mm-hmm. I know almost nothing about Costa Rica. No, this is one of my blind spots. I don't know much about, you know, Central America and all that general region at all. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, we will just move on from there then.
Sure.
Does Tom think he'd be more comfortable in a majority Muslim country like Somalia, Yemen, Kurdistan, etc., or does he prefer the company of dhimmis? Those are very interesting choices for places to live. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm more or less comfortable in a majority Muslim country because you're also weighing like a culture that I'm more familiar with. But I mean, I've lived in lots of places with different cultures, and that's never really been a big issue for me or anything like that. So I would say that I'm not more or less comfortable whether it's the US or whether it's a majority Muslim country. I'm happy either way. I really, there's pluses and minuses, but it's not something that I'm not like pining to go to a Muslim country, and I'm also not like, desperately want to stay here or anything like that. Like I'm pretty easy.
Yeah, I think there seem to be certain elements of Muslim majority places that seem appealing, but I unlike you, I have never lived in another country, so it's kind of hard for me to like whatever I think is necessarily just going to be an inaccurate and or idealized version. So I hesitate to commit to anything, like one thing that like I think would be nice would to not be surrounded by hypersexualization all the time.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice. To never worry about drunk drivers, that sounds nice. Like that kind of stuff. But obviously it's not like a cure-all, and every place that has those things going for it has other things that are detracting from it. So I'm not trying to speak for Tom here, but just for myself, that seems like it would be a pretty mixed bag, no matter which direction you take that in. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, it's not like it's so radically different. Like people are fairly similar everywhere you go. Like in a majority Muslim country, it's not like everyone there is like a practicing, like they're just people, you know what I mean? Like, so like if you go to some place like what you mentioned, like Somalia and Kurdistan and these kind of places, I don't know if they're just like dutifully going to the mosque and praying all the time. You know what I mean? They got a lot of things going on in those places, and that's not necessarily something I'm very interested in getting close to. So I don't know. It just depends. Like if you pointed me in the direction of a relatively safe kind of, higher standard of living kind of country that happens to be Muslim, then that's definitely like an appeal. Like that's a plus for me, but it's not something that is like such a big deal because it's, that doesn't really change 90% of the situation. It's a lot more about like just the local culture and things like that.
True.
Yeah, I was thinking that it'd be like someone asking, like, Don, would you feel more comfortable in a majority Catholic country like Colombia or the Philippines or something like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
All right, let's see here. All right. When is the Dawncast launching? Should get going before the 2021 Canadian federal election. I haven't heard of this, Dawn. Are you planning a Dawncast?
No, I'm not sure what they mean exactly. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to wall-to-wall coverage of the 2021 Canadian federal election and 2022 Ontario provincial election. I don't know. Just we'll have like a 20-minute segment each day.
Yeah. Sounds riveting.
And then like after a year, Tom will be like, so Andrea Horvath, today, just getting really into it.
Canadian names are just so funny. I don't even know. Yeah. Andrea Horvath, they all sound like they just sound like the fake names that Japanese video games come up with for Americans, like American characters.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do American names sound funny to you, Don?
No, I don't know. They sound the same to me. I don't know. The only difference is that like I noticed that like Canadian ones tend to be there's like a lot of like Scottish or like French Canadian names kind of thing.
Yeah,
like, true. Like you'll be like Douglas Mackenzie, or you'll be like like Mark Bebo or something. I don't know. Yeah.
There's just some kind of funny little flourish with a Canadian name. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we've talked about this before, and we were requested to do an episode on him, so we may do that in the future. But just real quickly, what do you guys think of Michael Parenti? Do you want to start this one off, Don?
Yeah, I think I did mention before that I think he's funny because he sounds exactly like Lenny Bruce. He's got like the same, because they're probably from the same neighborhood or whatever kind of thing, right? So it's like they just have that exact same New York
cadence.
Yeah, and the same way that they tell jokes and everything. Yeah, I just I don't know. I have odd habits sometimes, but like I used to listen to Lenny Bruce's, like he has like this one late in life set where he's just like, in the movie with Dustin Hoffman, it's like a big thing where it's like he's got like the sheafs of paper that he just kind of like shaking around while telling stories about like the way that society was created and all this kind of stuff, and like how he like going into his court cases and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's funny because like, and then I would listen to Parenti like right after that. He has like one MP3s that were like reflections on the overthrow of communism and stuff like that. So I don't know, Parenti was like ahead of his time for a lot of the stuff like on sophistry kind of arguments about communism and stuff, which I found like really, really funny and compelling before. But I don't know, it's just he's become a meme again somehow, and I don't know. People invest too much in that, I think. I don't know. Yeah. So he's kind of like, he kind of comes up with like funny kind of ideas, but like they're things that like no Marxist like would probably take seriously. Like outside of that kind of thing, like he had like a whole thing about like how he thought that like Julius Caesar, I think, was like sort of like proto-Marxist in some ways or something like that kind of stuff, like that ancient Rome had this kind of like same logic to it of like the people against the elites and all this kind of stuff. But like it was such like a crude version of that I'm like, yeah, but it's just like I don't know, it seems a bit silly. I don't know. But yeah, it's become like a big thing now where like people, quote his books about stuff. I don't know. Yeah. I said this before, but it's like my big thing on it was always that like he has this big thing called it's something like The Cruelest Cut or something like about anti-communism, and it's about how like Noam Chomsky hates communism kind of stuff. It's all like stuff about that, and towards the end, as just like in like a totally, it's going on and on about how it's bad to criticize communism, whatever, in all sorts of ways. And then at the very end, he has like a paragraph where it's just like, that's not to say that everything that Stalin did was good. And then he just lists like 10 different huge crimes of Stalin. Like he just like lists like, he's like, it's not true that he had to kill all of the old Bolsheviks and all this kind of stuff, just going on about like all the different things that he could have done wrong. And then he's like, so it's not like we're completely, it's not like you can't criticize communists. You just have to do it in the right way or whatever kind of thing. So he just kind of, I think that's kind of a really cheap kind of way of arguing. And it's funny because what I would do then is cut and paste that paragraph and just post it places. and people like freak out because it's like all negative stuff about Stalin and whatever, right? But it's like Michael Parenti saying it. So he's like the person that is supposed to be able to say whatever. So I don't know. It's just very, I don't know. I used to do that with Sam Marcy as well, who was like the master thinker for like the PSL and WWP and stuff in the States. And like he had like just tons and tons of stuff about how Stalin was like the worst thing ever and stuff. And I don't know. So that was easy to quote too. But then people got mad at me, so I stopped. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will just second what Don said.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, I think this one might be good to have with tabs on the line here. So Levi Strauss, in an ethnography of a native group from BC, said that myth is a means for resolving philosophical and social dilemmas at the heart of society. This reads similar to allegorical interpretations of religious texts. Any thoughts on the literalness of religious text using myth as an allegory, or the allegorical interpretation of text in this vein, as a more profound way of teaching/understanding than intellectual means, such as theory, commandments, academia, etc.? So I guess what they're asking is, do we find any value in like this Straussian sort of look at mythology? And does this have anything to do with like Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung and all that?
I don't think directly. I think it's more just it's more like anthropological.
Yeah, he's
study kind of stuff.
Levi-Strauss was more like structuralism type stuff, and yeah, I actually don't know what he said about mythology. That's not the context that I am familiar with his work in. But is the question just basically asking, is allegory a useful lens for looking at religious content?
I suppose so. I feel like what they're wanting to ask us about is like what's our take on reading these background mythologies, like these sort of like universalized mythologies, into religion and religious stories and things like that, kind of reading religious texts as myths. And I don't find it useful personally, as like in terms of my personal spirituality. I don't find it very useful to like look at like the Quran or the story of the prophet or something like that and think about it in terms of like, how does this story structure like the Muslim narrative or around the world or something like that. That's not, I don't know, that's like a separate thing to me than trying to take these like a personal level, like especially something like the Quran. It's really speaking directly to you, and if you kind of put these filters in between yourself and the text, you are not going to connect to it very well. I think this is something that people run into a lot. They like have some interest in Islam, and maybe they're even somewhat open to it or whatever, but when they start reading the Quran, they kind of have this extreme distance where it's like, oh, this is from this ancient culture, it's a different culture, they're talking about these things that I'm not really familiar with, and when it says you, it's talking to like these Arabs or something like that. Like there's people for whatever reason are reticent to like just open up to the text, and I think when you look at it in this way, you are doing that. You are putting distance between you and the text, and it's not like it's wrong to do this if that's the purpose of what you're trying to do. But if you're just approaching it from like your personal religious, angle, I think this is the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah, I feel like that approach is specifically meant to put distance between you and the subject matter.
Yeah.
So
right.
Like I just know that like you said, there's nothing wrong with it, and I don't think that there is anything. I don't know how fruitful it is to not take something at its own word. That's if you want to understand it. I think that's the bigger thing, where I never really like, there's nothing wrong with, like, for example, reading the Bible as literature. That's okay to do. But if you want to understand what it is to be a Christian, then maybe you should try to read it as a Christian would, as opposed to, trying to figure out, with my intellectual distance, how do I read this? Well, that's not the question you're trying to answer, presumably, in this case, right? So, like, I don't know. It's definitely, I think it's a good thing to be aware of the cultural and historical context of where these things come from, but I don't think they even come close to telling a full story of what it is. I think you really have to be inside it to come to that type or that level of understanding, because and I don't think either of those vantages really has an endpoint. Like you can kind of keep going in them no matter what. So it's not really about a goal per se, but if you, I guess just to repeat myself, if you want to understand it, you kind of have to be inside of it, I think, or at least give it a go, you know?
Yeah. For I think for the Christian stuff, and before that, or related to that, like the Jewish sort of Bible, like reading those kind of things. I've done I've read a lot of like different, listened to lectures about it and that kind of thing, and very common for it to kind of do like a textual analysis in a way that is like, oh well, this other culture nearby also had this, like maybe 5 of them or whatever, like a bunch of them had this idea of like the miraculous birth and like the father figure, and then the person that's a god or something, and that kind of stuff. Like they kind of do all of that, and then very, very quickly starts to skew off into all different, like a lot of different like documentaries and stuff like that are always like, there was no such person as a historical Jesus, or like there's no all this kind of stuff. Like it gets very, very strange kind of quickly, and again, and though, like it becomes so much about the allegory a lot of the time that it ends up stripping the story of anything interesting, kind of thing. It's almost like, oh, you just you have this and this,
and there's a formula or something.
Trope. Yeah, it's almost like the TV tropes guys kind of thing. It's like just, you start to, you're like, oh, it has this, and you're like, yeah, but I don't know. I do think that like it's true that that kind of way of myth making or whatever, like I think it's useful to look at like the wisdom of that kind of thing, but I find that a lot of the times it ends up not being really about the wisdom as much as kind of like people end up talking in terms of like values or like expectations of that culture or something kind of thing. Like they'll talk a lot about like maybe like the opinions on marriage in ancient cultures or in different things, or like the opinions on polytheism and in relationship to monotheism, that kind of stuff. But it's not really ends up being about like how people should live their lives or whatever kind of thing, or like actual, like if the myth has a function, what is you kind of want to talk about the function more or something, I think, sometimes, than just this ironing it out into this analysis of literary forms or something. I don't know. So
yeah, like yeah, I agree with what you said. I don't know enough about Levi Strauss specifically, about what this question is asking, that I can't speak more specifically about that.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like I should remember a little bit more, but I feel like I mostly remember him in the context of like linguistic stuff and semiotics, maybe even. Maybe I'm just crossing him with someone else, but I just don't know about this myth function that the person is referring to, so I don't know how ably I can answer the question.
All right, well, I think we did a decent job there. Let's move on to another one. Okay, should I call Shia Muslims Rafida? You should not do that to their face. Definitely not. They will take that as a insult. That's like a pejorative term. I don't think you should really. Yeah, and even in private, I don't think you should be doing that. I mean, my general rule is anything you wouldn't say to someone's face, you just don't say it ever. But yeah, that's not a nice term. There are.
What does it mean?
That
Tom?
term means I think it means rejectors or something like that, and I think it's supposed to imply, or it's supposed to connote like extremist Shiites who like say, like they basically make takfir on all of the Sahaba.
Yeah. And
there's some kind of people on the fringe there that have some really bizarre claims about like, just I don't go into the details, but they go to the extent of like bringing down the Prophet because of his interactions and stuff with Sahaba that
weird.
They deem as like these really evil people. So to me, that's like taking the whole Shia thing beyond, to the point where it's like you are emphasizing hating these certain people rather than like revering the Prophet and all that. So that's very weird to me. But that's like that's like the ISIS version, like the Shia version of ISIS. So like that's definitely not the norm. So I just wouldn't go around using that term. It's funny, like if you're going to use it as a joke or something to, you're pretending to be like a tech fury guy or whatever. I don't think it's that big a deal, but it's not something you should just be using in typical like conversation. Like if you say that and someone gets mad at you, don't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's another one. What does Tom think about Ilhan Omar marrying a husband, forcing him to convert, and then divorcing him and starting over with a new husband until half of the male population of Minnesota is Muslim? Worth a shot, Nothing haram about that I can see. So the forcing to convert part is the one thing. You would it couldn't be forced, but besides that, sounds good to me. All right, how about this one, guys? What's an animal that you think should go completely extinct? I knew you would hate that.
You mean aside from Homo sapiens sapiens? I know that's the easy one. Man, I truly don't know. I don't know about that. Do you guys have any ideas there? I feel like it's a spider web where if you pluck one area, it's going to wiggle the whole rest of the thing around in unpredictable ways.
Yeah, that's basically how I feel about that. It's not my business to go around picking and choosing. But if I had to choose, I would say the Chinese.
Okay.
I'll say cockroaches.
Yeah,
no, but if they weren't
right?
around,
just get rid of them.
Garbage would overflow. Like we would just have like rotting refuse all around us. They are the ones that help to turn that into something else.
I don't know.
Even
roach poop? Yeah. Is roach poop a good thing?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And like even mosquitoes, if we got rid of mosquitoes, who knows what sort of crazy, I don't know. Obviously, if I lived in a place where mosquito-borne illnesses were a bigger problem, I probably would feel a little bit different about it. But even something like that, it's scary because it could just have all these crazy unforeseen consequences. Like we've co-evolved with them, the thing about sickle cell and malaria and stuff like that. Like people like that, they've put evolutionary pressure on humans too. So it's not even like it would just affect other parts of the ecosystems that they're part of. They would affect us too. So it's very hard to pick an animal. Okay, what if I could just extirpate an animal from a given area that's not their native range? I would do that very handily. Like zebra mussels from North America.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, well then let's keep the giant Asian hornet out of the Pacific Northwest. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good.
That one's a new, they've just got here, so let's just not let them establish a foothold and send them back. You got to go home.
Sure. Yeah. So basically the same as Tom, you're saying. So, I don't know. No. I feel like, cockroaches, mosquitoes and stuff, it's like, things aren't going great now, so we might as well just try something like that and see what happens. I don't know. Like maybe like force evolution in a good way or something. I don't know.
Maybe having all that garbage around will put evolutionary pressure on us to grow gills or something. I don't know. Yeah. Sure. Stronger stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sounds good, guys. How old do you think your youngest listener is? How old is your oldest listener? That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that.
That is interesting.
I'm not sure.
I bet we have some teenage listeners.
Yeah. I know. I think we have at least college student ones. I know we have a fair number.
For sure. Definitely.
But
yeah, there's some younger people in the Discord, and those are people who have access to like a credit card or something. So like,
yeah, sure. I don't know.
I'm gonna guess like 15, 16.
And you probably have listeners in their 50s. I would guess that doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, how old is Donald Trump? He's like 70.
73?
3?
I think.
He is 74.
Okay.
And I do it all for him, so I hope that's our oldest listener.
Well, I think that the Pope listens too. Both of them. So.
Is he older?
Yeah, I think
they're
so.
like, I think one of them was like 93 or something. The other one was like 84 or something. I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Pope Francis is 83. He's looking good for 83. All that papal glory does wonders for the skin.
Yeah, I was reading this interview with him for like that just came out this year that like talks about the coronavirus and stuff like that, and a lot of it is like old man thoughts kind of thing, but like it some of it's pretty good, but like parts of it are just like him just thinking of stuff and riffing. I don't know, so it's fine. But yeah, he listens to us, I'm sure. So yeah.
All right, let's finish up here. How can I play as a Muslim character in Cyberpunk 2077? Very carefully. The way that you play everything in that game, it's very, very buggy. They do have NPCs like just wandering around the city who are hijabis, so that's kind of interesting.
That's cool.
And you can always refuse alcohol whenever it's kind of a situation where people are drinking or offer you a drink. You can always refuse it, so that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. But you still have to like kill people and stuff, right?
Yeah, but they're all kuffar. Their blood is all halal. Sure. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you have to honor your contracts.
Yeah. We'll have to do a Juegos episode sometime later in the month. I think we'll see. But
I think we're planning on doing one with Gerald and
oh, cool.
Back on because they are also doing the cyberpunk thing right now.
Sure.
And everyone's got strong opinions about that game, so it'll be interesting to see.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Tabs. I don't know. It was fun to
thank you for having
catch up
me.
and stuff.
You've actually put me in the frame of mind more forward thinking. I was not like sitting there trying to be like, what am I going to do with my 2021? Yeah. So now I'm in that. Now I'm in the zone.
Sure.
So thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. If you'd like a second episode every week, you can subscribe to our Patreon, and you will get that as well as access to our Discord, where you can talk to us and our community. And if you want to send us a question, you can do that by going to the podcast Twitter account and finding the pinned tweet, which will send you to Curious Cat, and you can do that there. It'll be anonymous. And thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.